For centuries, spiritual seekers have searched the world for the kingdom of heaven, never realizing the profound truth that changes everything. You have been taught to look outward, to wait for heaven in some distant future, in some far-off place. But what if I told you that this very misunderstanding has kept you from experiencing the divine power that is already present within you right now? The kingdom of heaven is not a location you travel to after death. It is not a reward for good behavior or a prize waiting in the clouds. Joel.Goldsmith revealed a truth that mystical Christians have known for ages. The kingdom of heaven is a state of consciousness, a realm of spiritual awareness that exists within you at this very moment, waiting only for your recognition. When you truly understand this, something miraculous begins to unfold in your life. Your entire relationship with healing, abundance, peace, and divine guidance transforms completely. You stop begging an external God for favors and start recognizing the divine presence that has always been the very essence of your being. This is not theology. This is practical mysticism that produces real transformation. Picture someone who has spent years praying for healing, for prosperity, for peace, always feeling separated from God by an unbridgeable distance. They pray with desperation, with hope, with increasing frustration. Why does God seem so far away? Why do prayers feel like messages sent into an empty void? The answer is profound. They are looking in the wrong direction entirely. The moment you realize that the kingdom of heaven is not out there but within your own consciousness, prayer transforms from begging to recognition. You are no longer asking an external deity to change your circumstances. Instead, you are awakening to the divine reality that already exists within you, untouched by external conditions, perfect and complete. Joel taught that this inner kingdom operates by entirely different laws than the material world. In this realm of consciousness, there is no lack, no disease, no separation from good. When you enter this kingdom through meditation and spiritual awareness, you bring its reality into your visible experience. This is the secret of spiritual healing that Joel practiced and taught throughout his ministry worldwide. Let me be clear about what happens when this understanding truly dawns in your consciousness. You do not suddenly become a perfect being who never faces challenges. Rather, you gain access to an inner resource that is always available, always present, always responsive to your recognition. You develop what Joel called the practice of the presence, a continuous awareness of this inner kingdom. In practical terms, this means that when facing a health crisis, you do not panic and immediately seek only material solutions. You first turn within to recognize the spiritual truth. In the kingdom of heaven within you, there is only wholeness, only divine perfection. This recognition does not replace medical wisdom, but it opens a channel for healing power that transcends material limitations completely. When confronting financial challenges, you do not solely focus on manipulating external conditions. You return to the consciousness of the inner kingdom where divine supply is infinite and eternally flowing. From this awareness, right action emerges naturally. Opportunities appear, solutions present themselves. This is consciousness demonstrating its own abundance, not through force, but through spiritual recognition and understanding. The transformation I am describing develops gradually over weeks and months of practice. You will not master this understanding overnight, and that is perfectly natural. Joel himself spent years developing this consciousness through meditation, study, and practical application. What matters is that you begin today with whatever level of understanding you currently possess. Start with simple recognition throughout your day. When you wake each morning, pause and acknowledge, the kingdom of heaven is within me right now. This divine consciousness is my true nature. During challenging moments, instead of reacting immediately from fear or lack, take even 30 seconds to return to this inner kingdom and recognize the truth that exists beyond material appearances and circumstances. You will notice subtle shifts at first. A deeper peace in stressful situations, unexpected solutions to persistent problems, a growing sense of divine guidance in daily decisions. These are signs that you are beginning to live from kingdom consciousness rather than purely from material awareness. This is the beginning of true spiritual transformation. The technique is simple, but its power is unlimited. Recognition of the inner kingdom becomes your foundation for everything: healing, prosperity, relationships, creative expression, and spiritual growth. You are not creating this kingdom through positive thinking. You are uncovering what has always been present, waiting for your awareness. Let me share a testimony that reveals how this understanding works in real life. A woman came to Joel's classes suffering from a condition that had persisted for 3 years. She had tried every medical approach available, spent enormous amounts of money, and received no lasting relief. Her doctors were compassionate, but ultimately told her she would simply have to learn to live with constant pain and limitation. She began studying Joel's teachings about the kingdom of heaven within. At first, she struggled to grasp how consciousness could possibly affect physical conditions. It seemed too abstract, too mystical. But she persisted in meditation, daily returning to the recognition that divine perfection existed within her consciousness, regardless of what her body seemed to tell her about disease and limitation. After 6 weeks of this practice, something shifted internally. She could not explain it in material terms, but she felt a deep peace replace the anxiety she had carried for years. Within 3 months, the physical symptoms began diminishing noticeably. Her doctors were puzzled but pleased. Within 6 months, she was completely free from the condition that had dominated her life and stolen her joy. What happened to this woman? Did she perform some magical incantation? Did God suddenly decide to favor her after years of ignoring her suffering? Neither. She simply awakened to the kingdom consciousness that had always been present within her. She stopped fighting disease from the level of disease and instead recognized the spiritual truth that transcends all material conditions and limitations. Another testimony reveals this principle working with financial challenges. A businessman faced bankruptcy after his partner embezzled company funds. Creditors were demanding payment. Legal troubles multiplied daily. He felt completely overwhelmed and saw no possible way forward through the financial disaster that threatened to destroy everything he had built over decades of hard work. Someone gave him Joel's recordings about the kingdom of heaven. Initially, he dismissed them as religious philosophy with no practical value for his desperate situation. But having exhausted every material solution, he began listening during his commute and practicing the meditation exercises Joel described. He started recognizing that divine supply existed within his own consciousness, independent of external circumstances. Within 2 weeks, an unexpected contact led to a business opportunity he had never imagined. Within 2 months, he had restructured his company completely, with new partners who shared his vision and integrity. Within 6 months, he had not only recovered from bankruptcy but was actually more prosperous than before the crisis. More importantly, he had discovered an inner resource that could never be stolen or destroyed. These are not instant miracles that happen while you sleep. They represent gradual transformation as consciousness shifts from material dependence to spiritual awareness. The kingdom of heaven within becomes your source, your supply, your healing power, your guidance. External conditions begin reflecting this inner reality more and more as you deepen in this understanding and practice. A third testimony shows this principle working in relationships. A mother had been estranged from her daughter for 5 years after a bitter conflict. Both women were suffering from the separation, but pride and hurt prevented reconciliation. The mother tried everything: letters, intermediaries, therapy, even surprise visits. Nothing worked. The relationship seemed permanently broken beyond any possibility of repair. She began working with Joel's teachings about the kingdom of heaven, focusing not on changing her daughter but on recognizing the divine perfection within her own consciousness. She meditated daily on the truth that love, wholeness, and harmony existed in the kingdom within her, regardless of outer appearances. She released her attempts to manipulate circumstances and rested in spiritual truth instead. After 4 months of this practice, her daughter unexpectedly called. The conversation was brief but warm. Over the following months, connection gradually restored. Today, 2 years later, they have a relationship deeper than ever before. The mother attributes this entirely to her shift in consciousness from trying to fix external situations to recognizing inner spiritual truth. These testimonies reveal a pattern. When you truly understand the kingdom of heaven as your own consciousness, you stop manipulating outer conditions and start recognizing inner reality. From this recognition, healing, prosperity, harmony, and guidance naturally emerge into your visible experience as material reflection of spiritual truth. If these transformation stories inspire you, like this video to help others discover these Joel Goldsmith teachings, subscribe for more mystical Christian wisdom each week, and comment. Which testimony resonated most deeply with your own spiritual journey right now? Now that you understand the basic principle, let me give you complementary techniques that deepen your experience of kingdom consciousness. The first is what Joel called the practice of stillness. This is not merely sitting quietly. It is an active inner stance of receptivity, an openness to divine presence that already exists within your consciousness, waiting only for your recognition and attention. Set aside 15 minutes each morning before external demands consume your attention. Sit comfortably, close your eyes, and release all thoughts about problems, needs, or desires. Do not pray for things. Do not visualize outcomes. Simply rest in the awareness. The kingdom of heaven is present within me now. Let this recognition fill your consciousness without any effort to make something happen or achieve any particular result. At first, your mind will rebel against this simplicity. It will insist you should be doing something, asking for something, working toward something tangible. This restlessness is natural. Simply observe these thoughts without engaging them and return gently to your recognition of inner kingdom presence. Over weeks of practice, you will begin experiencing a deeper peace, a subtle but unmistakable sense of divine presence. The second complementary technique is what Joel called divine indifference. This does not mean you become uncaring or passive about life circumstances. Rather, it means you are no longer enslaved to material conditions because you have discovered an inner kingdom that remains perfect regardless of outer appearances. You care about situations but are not controlled by them because your source is consciousness, not circumstances. Practice this throughout your day. When challenging situations arise, pause and recognize, the kingdom of heaven within me is untouched by this material appearance. Divine reality exists beyond what my senses report. This recognition does not deny the existence of problems, but it prevents problems from controlling your inner state. You remain anchored in spiritual truth even while addressing practical matters wisely. A businessman who learned this technique described his experience this way. When his largest client suddenly canceled a major contract, instead of panicking, he took 5 minutes alone to recognize the kingdom consciousness within him. He then addressed the situation calmly and creatively. Within a week, 3 new opportunities appeared that proved more profitable than the lost contract had been. The third complementary technique is recognizing the kingdom in others. This is profoundly important for relationships. When someone treats you unfairly, your natural reaction is to see them as the problem. But kingdom consciousness reveals a deeper truth. The divine presence exists within their consciousness too, even if they are currently unaware of it and acting from ego or fear instead. This does not mean you allow mistreatment or fail to set healthy boundaries. It means you respond to situations without seeing others as enemies to defeat. You recognize their true spiritual nature even while addressing problematic behavior. This inner stance often produces surprising results. People sense when you see them through kingdom consciousness, and something in them responds to this recognition naturally. A teacher used this approach with a student who had been disruptive and disrespectful for months. Instead of reacting with anger and punishment, she began silently recognizing the kingdom of heaven within this troubled student during meditation each morning. She maintained appropriate classroom discipline while holding this inner recognition of his spiritual truth consistently. Within 3 weeks, the student's behavior began changing noticeably. Within 2 months, he became one of her most engaged and cooperative students. Years later, he told her that somehow he had sensed she saw something good in him when everyone else had given up. That recognition had awakened something dormant within his own consciousness and changed his entire life trajectory. These complementary techniques work together synergistically. Morning stillness opens your awareness to kingdom consciousness. Divine indifference maintains your anchoring in spiritual truth throughout daily challenges. Recognizing the kingdom in others extends this consciousness into your relationships. Together, they create a comprehensive practice that progressively transforms your entire experience of life from material limitation to spiritual freedom and power. Remember that developing these techniques requires patience and consistency. Some days your meditation will feel profound. Other days your mind will wander constantly. Some situations will reveal kingdom consciousness easily. Others will challenge you severely. This is natural spiritual development. What matters is your commitment to daily practice regardless of immediate results or fluctuating feelings. The techniques are simple, but their cumulative effect over months and years is profound transformation. You are not trying to become someone different. You are uncovering the spiritual reality that has always been your true nature, hidden only by misunderstanding and material focus. Every practice session, every moment of recognition, removes another layer of illusion and reveals more of your divine essence. Let me address the realistic challenges you will encounter in this practice, because honesty about obstacles is essential for sustainable spiritual growth. The first major challenge is consistency. You will begin with enthusiasm, meditating daily, recognizing kingdom consciousness throughout your day. Then life will get busy. Deadlines, crises, relationships, health issues will consume your attention completely. When you skip your practice for 3 days, then a week, then 2 weeks, guilt and discouragement often follow. You think you have failed, that you are not spiritual enough, that this path is too difficult. This is the critical moment. Instead of abandoning the practice entirely, simply return to it today without self-judgment. Spiritual growth is not about perfection, but persistence through imperfection. Joel himself experienced periods where external demands made regular meditation difficult. He did not interpret this as spiritual failure. He simply returned to practice when possible and maintained awareness even during busy periods. The kingdom of heaven within you does not disappear when you forget to recognize it. It waits patiently for your attention to return, like the sun behind clouds waiting to be visible again. The second challenge is dealing with severe crises that seem to contradict kingdom consciousness entirely. When you receive a devastating medical diagnosis, when a loved one dies unexpectedly, when financial catastrophe strikes, recognizing inner spiritual perfection can feel absurd or even offensive. How can you acknowledge kingdom consciousness when material circumstances scream disaster and loss? This is where Joel's teaching becomes most profound and most difficult simultaneously. He is not asking you to deny the reality of painful circumstances or pretend everything is fine when it clearly is not. He is asking you to hold two truths simultaneously. Material circumstances are real on their level, but spiritual reality is deeper and more fundamental than material appearances. In practical terms, this means you address the medical crisis with appropriate care, while also recognizing that your true nature, the kingdom within, remains whole regardless of physical conditions. You grieve your loss authentically, while knowing that spiritual reality transcends physical death. You take practical steps during financial difficulty while maintaining consciousness of infinite divine supply beyond material limitations. This is not easy. It requires tremendous spiritual maturity to hold this dual awareness. You will sometimes lose your grip on kingdom consciousness completely during severe challenges. This is human and natural. The practice is not achieving permanent perfection, but developing the ability to return to spiritual awareness more quickly after being pulled into material fear and limitation. The third challenge is dealing with lack of visible results that match your expectations. You practice diligently for weeks, months. You recognize kingdom consciousness daily. You meditate faithfully. Yet the health condition persists. The financial struggle continues. The relationship remains broken. Doubt creeps in. Maybe this is just philosophical fantasy with no practical power at all. Joel was honest about this. Spiritual consciousness does not always produce immediate material changes. Sometimes healing takes months or even years. Sometimes circumstances must first deteriorate completely before transformation can occur. Sometimes the visible demonstration is different from what you expected, but ultimately more beneficial. The practice requires faith not in specific outcomes but in spiritual truth itself. A woman practiced kingdom consciousness for 8 months while her husband's cancer progressed despite all treatments. She struggled terribly with doubt and despair. Why was recognition of inner perfection not producing physical healing? Then her husband died peacefully, and she realized something profound. The kingdom consciousness she had developed did not save his body, but it gave both of them deep peace during his final months together. She learned that spiritual consciousness sometimes changes us more than circumstances. It prepares us for experiences we cannot avoid rather than always preventing difficult situations. This is mature spirituality, not the magical thinking that promises instant gratification. Kingdom consciousness gives you divine resources for whatever life brings, not escape from all challenges and losses. The final challenge is dealing with criticism from others who see your spiritual practice as escapism or delusion. Family members may mock your meditation. Friends may accuse you of ignoring reality. Religious people may call it heretical. This external resistance can shake your confidence, especially when you are already struggling with internal doubts. If these honest challenge discussions resonate with your spiritual journey, like to support this authentic content, subscribe for advanced Joel.Goldsmith teachings that honor both difficulties and triumphs. And comment, which obstacle challenges you most right now in your practice? Now let me show you advanced integration of kingdom consciousness in daily life, with realistic challenges included. You wake each morning and immediately recognize the inner kingdom before checking your phone or thinking about your schedule. This sets a spiritual foundation. Then you encounter your first challenge within minutes. Your teenager announces they failed an important exam they had promised to study for diligently. Your initial reaction is anger, disappointment, worry about their future. These emotions are natural and human. Advanced kingdom consciousness does not eliminate human emotions but provides a deeper foundation beneath them. You feel the frustration while simultaneously recognizing that divine intelligence exists within your child's consciousness, temporarily obscured but never destroyed. This dual awareness changes how you respond completely. Instead of reacting purely from anger, you address the situation from kingdom consciousness. You set appropriate consequences while also having a conversation that recognizes their potential and worth beyond academic performance. You are parenting from spiritual truth, not just emotional reaction. This does not mean you become permissive. It means your discipline comes from love and recognition rather than fear and control. Throughout your workday, you practice divine indifference to external pressures. Your boss criticizes your project unfairly. Normally, this would ruin your day, trigger anxiety, make you defensive. But you have cultivated awareness of the kingdom within that remains perfect regardless of human opinions. You listen to the criticism, extract any valid feedback, and release the rest without letting it define your worth or steal your peace. A colleague asks for help with a problem. Your first thought is that you are too busy with your own overwhelming workload. Then you recognize kingdom consciousness in both of you, which contains infinite creativity and solutions. From this awareness, you spend 10 minutes brainstorming with them. Within those minutes, insights emerge that benefit both your projects. Kingdom consciousness proves abundant, not limited. That afternoon, you receive an unexpected bill that strains your budget considerably. Fear arises immediately. Where will the money come from? Advanced kingdom practice means you acknowledge the fear while returning to recognition of divine supply within consciousness. You do not magically manifest cash, but you do receive a call about freelance work that evening. Consciousness demonstrates supply through practical channels. In the evening, your spouse is distant and irritable. Your tendency is to take it personally, to react defensively, to withdraw emotionally yourself. Kingdom consciousness gives you another option. Recognize that they are dealing with their own challenges, that the divine presence within them remains perfect, even when obscured by stress or fatigue. This recognition allows you to respond with compassion rather than defensiveness. You ask gently if they want to talk or need space. They initially snap that they are fine. Instead of escalating conflict, you honor their response while maintaining your inner recognition of their spiritual truth. Later that evening, they apologize and open up about work stress they were not ready to discuss earlier. Your kingdom consciousness created space for authentic connection. Before sleep, you meditate again, reviewing your day from the perspective of kingdom consciousness. You notice where you maintained spiritual awareness successfully and where you forgot completely. Both are learning opportunities. You do not judge yourself harshly for the moments you lost touch with inner truth. You simply observe, learn, and renew your commitment to tomorrow's practice. This is advanced integration, living ordinary life from extraordinary consciousness. Not escaping daily challenges, but meeting them from spiritual foundation. Some days you do this beautifully. Other days, You fail completely and spend hours in anxiety or anger before remembering the kingdom within. This inconsistency is normal spiritual development, not evidence of failure. Over months and years of this practice, something profound shifts. The kingdom consciousness that once required effort becomes increasingly natural. You automatically return to spiritual truth more quickly after being pulled into material fear. Solutions appear more readily. Peace becomes more consistent. Relationships deepen. Creativity flows. Health improves gradually. Prosperity increases naturally. These changes are not instant or dramatic. They unfold organically as consciousness transforms. You may not even notice the cumulative effect until you look back and realize how different your life has become. The person who constantly worried about money now lives with steady financial flow. The one who struggled with chronic anxiety now experiences consistent peace. The one whose relationships were conflicted now enjoys authentic connection. This is kingdom consciousness demonstrating itself through gradual transformation. You are not creating these changes through positive thinking or willpower. You are simply recognizing spiritual truth consistently until material experience begins reflecting that truth naturally. The kingdom of heaven within you is expressing itself through your visible life experience increasingly as recognition deepens. As we approach the completion of this teaching, let me paint a picture of total transformation through kingdom consciousness over time. Imagine yourself 3 years from now, having practiced these principles daily, with patience through successes and failures. The person you are then looks back at who you are today and barely recognizes the fearful, limited consciousness that once dominated your experience completely. You wake each morning with automatic awareness of inner kingdom presence. This is no longer something you must remember consciously. It has become your natural state, like breathing. Challenges still arise, but they no longer shake your fundamental peace, because you are anchored in spiritual reality that transcends material circumstances completely. You face difficulties with divine resources always available within consciousness. Your relationships have transformed dramatically. People sense something different about you, though they may not be able to name it precisely. You respond to conflict with compassion rather than defensiveness. You see the best in others even when they cannot see it themselves. This kingdom consciousness in you awakens corresponding awareness in them. Connections deepen naturally. Your work has become an expression of divine creativity rather than mere survival. Ideas flow because you are tapped into infinite intelligence within kingdom consciousness. Obstacles that would have overwhelmed you before now feel like interesting puzzles to solve from spiritual awareness. Success comes more consistently, not through manipulation but through consciousness demonstrating abundance naturally. Your health has stabilized or improved significantly. You still have a human body with normal limitations, but you are no longer enslaved to fear about physical conditions. When symptoms arise, you address them practically while maintaining consciousness of inner spiritual wholeness. This dual approach provides both material and spiritual resources for healing and well-being. Most importantly, you have discovered unshakable peace that does not depend on circumstances being perfect. The kingdom of heaven within you has proven itself faithful through every challenge, every loss, every disappointment. You know from direct experience that spiritual consciousness is the only reliable foundation for life. Material conditions fluctuate constantly, but inner truth remains eternally steady. This transformation I am describing is available to you, but it requires commitment that most people are unwilling to make. It demands daily practice even when you feel no immediate results. It requires faith in spiritual truth when material appearances contradict that truth completely. It necessitates patience through the weeks, months, and years of gradual development. Joel.Goldsmith taught this path to thousands of students worldwide. Some experienced dramatic transformations within months. Others worked for years before significant changes appeared. A few gave up when immediate miracles did not materialize. But those who persisted discovered something more valuable than instant gratification. They found an inner resource that sustains them through everything life brings. You are standing at a choice point right now. You can dismiss this teaching as interesting philosophy but too impractical for your busy, complicated life. You can try it half-heartedly for a few weeks and then abandon it when results do not match your expectations. or you can commit to genuine practice with patience for gradual transformation. The kingdom of heaven is within you right now. It has always been there. It will always be there. Your recognition does not create it, but reveals what already exists eternally. Every time you turn within to acknowledge this spiritual truth, you are removing another layer of illusion that has kept you imprisoned in material limitation and fear. Start today, this moment, with whatever understanding you currently possess. You do not need to master complex theology or achieve perfect meditation. You simply need to recognize, as often as you remember, the kingdom of heaven is within me now. Divine presence is my true nature. Spiritual perfection exists in consciousness regardless of material appearances. Practice this recognition in the morning, throughout challenges, before sleep. Be patient with yourself through inevitable inconsistency. Celebrate small victories. Learn from temporary defeats. Most importantly, persist through the weeks, months, and years of gradual transformation until kingdom consciousness becomes your natural state and your material experience reflects this spiritual truth increasingly. This is the path Joel Goldsmith illuminated through his life and teachings. This is mystical Christianity practiced, not just believed. This is the kingdom of heaven revealed not as distant reward, but as present reality within your own consciousness. When you truly understand this, everything changes. Not instantly, but certainly. Not magically, but miraculously. Not through force, but through spiritual recognition. If your understanding of the kingdom of heaven has expanded through these Joel Goldsmith teachings, like this video to help others discover this transformative wisdom, subscribe for more practical mystical Christianity content, and comment, "I am transformed," to confirm your commitment to this spiritual path right now.